I can't take it anymore, take me with you. The desperate whisper barely rose above the howl of the prairie wind, yet it stopped the rider in his tracks. The towering Comanche warrior tightened his grip on the reins and turned his horse. Moonlight revealed a young woman standing barefoot in the tall grass. Her white wedding dress was torn, its lace stained with mud. One sleeve had been ripped away. She clutched her side as though every breath hurt. Behind her, distant voices echoed across the hills. They went this way. Torches flickered in the darkness. The warrior studied her without speaking. His sharp eyes noticed everything, the bruises on her wrists, the fear trembling behind her blue eyes, the fresh blood on the hem of her dress. She took one shaky step toward him. They'll kill me if I go back. The warrior remained silent. People called him Koa. Among the Comanche, he had earned a fearsome reputation. He was the strongest hunter, the fiercest protector, and the quietest man anyone had ever known. Enemies believed he felt no mercy. His own people knew better. He simply never wasted words. The frightened bride looked over her shoulder. The shouting was getting closer. I don't care where you're going, she whispered. Please. A gunshot shattered the night. The bullet struck the dirt only a few feet away. She gasped and instinctively ran toward the warrior. Without warning, Koa leaned down from his saddle and caught her arm before she stumbled. For one brief second, their eyes met. She expected anger. Instead, she found calm. The pounding of the approaching horses grew louder. They're taking her alive, someone yelled. Koa slowly turned his horse toward the voices. His expression never changed. The men chasing her burst over the ridge. There were 8 of them. All armed. One stepped forward, pointing his rifle. She's my bride. The woman flinched. No, she whispered. I was never yours. The man ignored her. Hand her over. Silence stretched across the open land. The wind carried dust between them. Then Koa did something no one expected. He reached down, lifted the runaway bride onto his horse behind him, and wrapped her trembling hands around his waist. The armed men stared in disbelief. One of them laughed. You really want a war over one woman? Koa finally spoke. Just 3 quiet words. Come and try. Every rifle lifted at once. And before the first trigger could be pulled, Koa's horse exploded into a full sprint across the moonlit prairie, leaving everyone wondering whether either of them would survive the night. The first rays of sunrise painted the endless prairie in shades of gold as Koa's horse thundered across the open land. Cold wind whipped through Clara Whitmore's tangled blonde hair, making her eyes water. She tightened her trembling hands around the broad leather vest of the silent Comanche warrior who had saved her only hours earlier. She still couldn't believe she had escaped. Or perhaps she hadn't. Every distant sound made her wonder if the men hunting her had caught their trail. Koa never looked back. His posture remained calm, his breathing steady, as though outrunning armed men before dawn was nothing unusual. For Clara, everything had changed in a single night. Only yesterday she had been preparing to become the wife of one of the wealthiest ranchers in Texas. Now she was riding into the unknown beside a man everyone she had ever known had been taught to fear. Neither of them spoke. Around midday Koa finally slowed his horse near a clear stream hidden beneath towering cottonwood trees. Birds sang overhead while sunlight danced across the flowing water. He climbed down first. Then, without a word, he reached up to help Clara. She hesitated before placing her hand in his. His grip was surprisingly gentle. The moment her feet touched the ground, exhaustion overwhelmed her. She nearly collapsed. Koa caught her before she fell. You are hurt, he said quietly. His English carried a heavy accent, but his meaning was clear. I'm fine. She wasn't. Her ankles were swollen from running barefoot through rocky fields. Her wrist still carried dark bruises where Ethan Caldwell had grabbed her during the wedding ceremony. Even thinking his name made her stomach twist. Koa knelt beside the stream and filled a small leather pouch with water before offering it to her. She accepted it carefully. "Thank you." He simply nodded. After drinking, Clara finally had a chance to truly see the man who had risked his life for a complete stranger. He looked older than she had first thought. Perhaps 30. His long black hair was tied neatly behind his shoulders. A faint scar crossed one side of his jaw. Unlike the terrifying stories she had heard growing up, there was no cruelty in his eyes. Only patience. Only quiet strength. He walked into the nearby woods and returned minutes later carrying wild berries and edible roots. He placed them beside her. "You eat. What about you?" "I hunt later." Again, only a few words. Yet somehow they felt kinder than the endless promises Ethan had spoken during their courtship. Clara stared at the simple meal. "I've never eaten anything like this." Koa gave the smallest hint of a smile. "Today, you do." She almost laughed. It surprised her. After everything that had happened, she hadn't imagined she could still smile. As they rested beneath the trees, Clara's thoughts drifted back to the life she had left behind. She had grown up on a small farm outside Austin. Her father, Samuel Whitmore, had once been an honest blacksmith. After a terrible drought destroyed their crops and debts mounted, he borrowed money from wealthy cattle baron Ethan Caldwell. The loan saved the farm, for a while. But when Samuel became sick and could no longer work, the debt grew impossible to repay. Ethan arrived with a solution. He would erase every penny. If Clara married him. Her father refused. Her mother cried for days. But Ethan wasn't asking. He controlled the town sheriff, the local judge, and half the ranches for 50 miles. There was nowhere to turn. Clara had begged her parents. "I can't marry him." Her father had held her hands, tears filling his tired eyes. "I know." The memory still broke her heart. Samuel died only 2 weeks before the wedding. Without him, Ethan forced everything to move quickly. The ceremony was arranged within days. Every neighbor attended. Everyone smiled. No one noticed the terror hidden beneath Clara's bridal veil. Or perhaps they noticed. And were simply too afraid to interfere. She had planned her escape for weeks. While the guests celebrated after the ceremony, she slipped through the kitchen, stole a stable horse, and fled into the night. She almost made it. Until the horse stumbled near the river and threw her to the ground. She had run on foot ever since. Straight into Koa's path. "You think much," Koa observed. She looked up. "I lost everything." He sat across from her, feeding small sticks into a fire he had quietly built. After a long silence, he spoke. "Sometimes, losing everything is where a new path begins." The word surprised her. She wondered what he had lost. Before she could ask, Koa suddenly stood. His expression hardened. He looked toward the western hills. The birds had stopped singing. The forest had gone strangely quiet. Then came the distant sound that froze Clara's blood. Dogs. Tracking dogs. Koa crouched and pressed 2 fingers against the soft earth beside the stream. Fresh hoof prints. Several riders. Much closer than they should have been. He looked directly at Clara. "They found us." Far away, the deep bark of the hunting dogs echoed through the valley, and it was getting louder. The barking of the tracking dogs rolled through the valley like distant thunder. Clara's face turned pale. "They're getting closer," she whispered. Koa didn't answer immediately. He listened. Every sound mattered. The wind. The creek. The nervous movement of birds high in the trees. Then he stood and scattered dirt over the small fire until not a single ember remained. "No smoke," he said. Clara hurried to her feet despite the pain shooting through her ankles. "What do we do?" Koa looked toward a narrow canyon hidden behind thick cedar trees. "We disappear." He untied a small bundle from his saddle and handed her a pair of soft buckskin moccasins. "Where?" She stared at them. "You carry these?" "For travel." She quickly slipped them on. They fit surprisingly well and were far kinder to her wounded feet than the torn satin slippers she had abandoned miles ago. Koa led his horse into the icy stream instead of following the trail. Clara frowned. "Why are we walking in the water?" "So dogs lose scent." His calm voice somehow eased her racing heart. She followed carefully, the cold water numbing her legs. For nearly half a mile they walked through the creek before climbing onto a rocky hillside where almost no footprints could be left behind. Only then did Koa pause. He crouched beside a broken branch. Someone else had been there. Recently. His fingers brushed the cut wood. Not made by nature. Made by a knife. His eyes narrowed. "We are not alone." Clara's pulse quickened. "The men chasing us?" Koa slowly shook his head. "No." Before he could explain, a whistle echoed from the trees. Short. Sharp. Answered by another whistle farther away. Koa instinctively stepped in front of Clara. She could see the muscles in his shoulders tighten. A dozen arrows suddenly appeared, aimed directly at them from behind rocks and tree trunks. Invisible warriors emerged one by one. Their faces were painted. Their bows never wavered. Clara's breath caught. One older warrior stepped forward. His expression was stern. He spoke rapidly in Comanche. Koa answered in the same language. The exchange grew louder. The older man pointed directly at Clara. Several younger warriors glanced at her with suspicion. She couldn't understand a single word. "What are they saying?" she whispered. Koa didn't answer. Instead, he kept speaking calmly, though his voice had become firmer. Finally, the older warrior fell silent. After a long pause, he lowered his bow. The others slowly followed. Relief washed over Clara, but it lasted only a moment. The older warrior walked toward her. His weathered face showed neither kindness nor hatred. Only caution. In broken English he asked. "White woman, why follow Koa?" "I didn't follow him," Clara answered honestly. "I begged him to save me." The old warrior studied her for several seconds. Then he turned to Koa again. After another brief conversation, he nodded once. Koa faced Clara. "They come from my village." She smiled with relief. "So we're safe?" Koa didn't return the smile. "They will protect you." "That's good." He hesitated. "Not everyone agrees." Her smile faded. "What do you mean?" "The hunters behind us, they bring danger." The older warrior pointed toward the south, where a thin cloud of dust was rising above the prairie. "Horsemen. Many of them. Far more than before." Clara counted at least 20 riders. Her heart sank. "Ethan." Koa nodded. "He brings more men." The older warrior spoke again, this time loud enough for everyone to hear. Even without understanding the language, Clara could feel the tension spreading among the warriors. Some looked at her with sympathy. Others looked at her as though she were the beginning of a war. Koa translated quietly. "He says, if they attack our people because of you, many families could die." The word struck Clara harder than any bullet. She lowered her eyes. "I never wanted anyone else to suffer." Silence settled over the group. Finally, Clara took a deep breath. "I'll leave." Every head turned toward her. If my staying puts innocent people in danger, then I'll go. Koa stared at her. You will not survive alone. Maybe not. Tears filled her eyes. But I can't ask strangers to die for me. For the first time since they had met, emotion flashed across Koa's usually calm face. You did not ask. No. You were hunted. He stepped closer. And I chose. Before Clara could respond, a young Comanche scout came racing through the trees on horseback. He shouted urgently. The older warrior's face hardened. Koa listened carefully, then turned to Clara. His voice was lower than before. The scout found something. What? Koa looked toward the approaching dust cloud. Ethan is not only bringing ranchers. He paused. He has convinced soldiers from the nearby fort that our people kidnapped you. Clara felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Soldiers. Rifles. 20 ranchers. Tracking dogs. And an entire Comanche village now stood directly in their path. As the first distant bugle echoed across the plains, Clara realized her escape had become something far bigger than one runaway bride. The sound of the military bugle drifted across the prairie, followed by the distant pounding of dozens of horses. Every Comanche warrior turned toward the southern ridge. Dust clouds rose into the morning sky. They are closer than we thought, the elder said quietly. Koa's jaw tightened. Clara's heart pounded. I'm so sorry, she whispered. This is because of me. The elder looked at her for a long moment before speaking. No. This is because men who want power always need someone to blame. Those words surprised her. She had expected anger. Instead, she saw wisdom. Koa motioned for everyone to move. Within moments the warriors disappeared into the forest so quietly that Clara could hardly believe they had been there at all. She hurried beside Koa as they followed a narrow mountain trail. After nearly an hour of climbing, the trees opened to reveal a hidden Comanche village tucked between towering cliffs. Smoke curled from cooking fires. Children laughed as they chased one another across the grass. Women prepared food while elders repaired blankets and tools. The peaceful scene was nothing like the terrifying stories Clara had heard since childhood. People stopped what they were doing as Koa entered the village. Every eye settled on the young woman in the torn wedding dress. Whispers spread quickly. A white woman. Why has Koa brought her here? Some faces showed kindness. Others showed fear. A little girl, no older than 6, stepped out from behind her mother and stared at Clara with wide, curious eyes. Clara offered a shy smile. The little girl smiled back. Before her mother gently pulled her away. Koa led Clara to a small lodge near the edge of the village. You rest here. What about everyone else? I speak with the council. As he turned to leave, Clara reached for his arm. Koa. He looked back. Why did you help me? For the first time, silence lingered between them. Finally, he answered. When I was a boy, soldiers burned my family's winter camp. His voice remained calm, but his eyes carried old pain. My mother told me, never become like the people who hurt us. He paused. So when I saw fear in your eyes. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Clara understood. After Koa left, an elderly Comanche woman entered carrying fresh clothes, herbs, and warm soup. She smiled gently. My name is Ayana. Her English was slow but clear. You are safe. Safe. The word almost made Clara cry. Ayana carefully cleaned the cuts on Clara's feet before wrapping them with soft cloth. You have walked through much pain. Clara nodded. So have you. The old woman smiled sadly. All women carry scars. Some are seen. Some are hidden. Later that evening, Clara stepped outside the lodge. The sun was setting behind the cliffs, painting the sky with brilliant shades of orange and crimson. Children laughed around a small fire. An old man played a soft melody on a wooden flute. For the first time in weeks, Clara felt something she thought she had lost forever. Peace. But it lasted only a moment. A young scout came galloping into the village, his horse covered in sweat. He jumped down and rushed straight to the council fire. His urgent words silenced the entire village. Koa immediately stood. His face turned grim. Clara watched him approach. What happened? His answer chilled her. The soldiers are not coming to rescue you. He looked toward the darkening horizon where smoke was beginning to rise. They have already burned the first Comanche camp they found, and it wasn't ours. Clara felt the blood drain from her face. In trying to save one life, an entire people had become the target. Silence fell over the village. Even the children stopped laughing. The scout stood beside the council fire, breathing hard from his long ride. The camp by the red bluff. He said. It is gone. The elder closed his eyes. How many? 4 dead. Many wounded. The rest fled into the hills. Clara felt her knees weaken. They weren't even looking for me, she whispered. Koa looked toward the flames. No. They wanted someone to blame. The council gathered in a circle. Their voices remained calm, but the weight of every word could be felt throughout the village. Some believed Clara should be sent away before more soldiers arrived. Others argued that abandoning an innocent woman would dishonor everything the Comanche stood for. The debate grew longer. Clara listened from a distance, guilt pressing heavily on her chest. Finally, she stood. They're right. Everyone turned toward her. If I leave tonight, perhaps they'll stop hunting your people. A young warrior shook his head. They will not. But they came because of me. They came because they already wanted a reason. Koa stepped beside her. You did not start this. Before Clara could answer, another rider appeared at the edge of the village. This one wasn't Comanche. He rode slowly, carrying a white cloth tied to the end of his rifle. A messenger, one of the warriors muttered. The rider stopped well outside the village. I bring a message from Ethan Caldwell. Koa and 2 elders walked forward while archers quietly took positions among the rocks. The messenger unrolled a piece of paper. Ethan Caldwell offers peace. Clara's heart skipped. The man continued reading. He asks only that Miss Clara Whitmore be returned unharmed. Several warriors exchanged doubtful looks. The messenger smiled coldly. If she is returned before tomorrow's sunset, no further action will be taken. For one brief moment, hope flickered across Clara's face. Then the messenger added one final sentence. If she is not returned. He paused deliberately. Every Comanche village between this valley and the river will be treated as hostile. A heavy silence followed. The messenger tossed a leather pouch onto the ground before turning his horse. It contains proof that Mr. Caldwell keeps his promises. After he disappeared, Koa picked up the pouch. Inside was a silver sheriff's badge. And a blood-stained scarf. Clara immediately recognized it. It belongs to Sheriff Mason. The sheriff had opposed Ethan's forced marriage only days earlier. He tried to help me escape, she whispered. Her hands began to shake. What happened to him? Koa unfolded a small note hidden beneath the scarf. His expression darkened as he read it. What does it say? Clara asked. He looked directly into her eyes. It says the sheriff is dead. Clara covered her mouth in horror. But Koa wasn't looking at the note anymore. He was staring at the signature. Something about it was wrong. Very wrong. After a long silence, he turned the paper over. Hidden beneath the official message was a tiny symbol burned into the corner, a mark he recognized from years ago. His face hardened. This isn't only Ethan's doing. Clara frowned. What do you mean? Koa folded the note carefully. There is another man behind all of this. A man who should have died 5 years ago. The council fire burned low as every eye remained fixed on Koa. A man who should have died 5 years ago, he repeated. Clara felt a chill despite the warmth of the flames. Who is he? Koa slowly unfolded the note again and pointed to the small burned symbol in the corner. It was the shape of a hawk with its wings spread wide. The Blackhawk brand. The elder's face immediately darkened. I thought they were gone. So did I, Koa answered. Clara looked between them. I don't understand. The elder drew a long breath. Years ago, a group of wealthy ranchers, corrupt traders, and former soldiers formed a secret alliance. They wanted every piece of Comanche land. Villages that refused to leave, disappeared. They blamed raids that never happened, Koa added. They paid newspapers to spread lies. They wanted settlers to believe every Comanche was an enemy. And Ethan is part of them? Koa nodded. He is only one piece. Before anyone could speak again, a young scout burst into the council circle. They're coming. How many? More than 50 riders, and soldiers. A wave of alarm swept through the village. Women hurried to gather children. Warriors grabbed bows, rifles, and spears. The peaceful valley transformed into a fortress within moments. Clara's heart pounded. They're going to attack. Koa looked toward the cliffs surrounding the village. They expect us to fight in the open. So what do we do? He pointed toward the narrow canyon that led into the valley. We make them believe the village is empty. The elders quickly agreed. Families disappeared into hidden caves carved deep inside the mountains, while warriors concealed themselves among the rocks above the canyon. Clara helped Ayana lead frightened children through a secret passage hidden behind thick vines. One little boy clung tightly to her hand. Will they hurt us? He whispered. She forced a reassuring smile. Not if we stay together. But inside, she wasn't sure. When everyone reached safety, Clara turned back. I have to help. Ayana caught her wrist. You are not a warrior. No, Clara said. But this started because of me. She slipped away before the older woman could stop her. Outside, Koa was preparing his horse. He looked surprised to see her. You should be hiding. I won't leave you. His voice became firm. If they find you, everything we have done is lost. Before Clara could answer, a rifle cracked through the valley. The bullet struck a tree only inches from Koa's shoulder. Then another shot echoed. And another. Soldiers had reached the canyon entrance. Through the drifting smoke, Ethan Caldwell rode into view beside a tall man dressed in a black military coat. The stranger's face was scarred from temple to chin, and his cold gray eyes searched the valley without emotion. Koa stared at him in disbelief. It can't be. The scarred man slowly smiled. I've been looking for you, Koa. Clara looked at the warrior beside her. You know him? Koa never took his eyes off the rider. He commanded the massacre that killed my family. The scarred officer raised one gloved hand. Dozens of soldiers aimed their rifles toward the hidden village. Then, with a cruel smile, he gave a single order. Burn everything. The scarred officer's command echoed across the canyon. Burn everything. For one frozen heartbeat, no one moved. Then flaming torches arced through the air. They crashed against empty lodges, sending sparks into the dry grass. Thick smoke curled toward the sky, swallowing the peaceful village in a blanket of black. The soldiers believed they were destroying a home full of people. They had no idea the families were hidden deep inside the mountain. Koa remained perfectly still, watching every movement below. "They're taking the bait," he murmured. Clara looked at him in confusion. "The village is empty." "Exactly." The Comanche warriors hidden among the cliffs waited in complete silence. Their bows were already drawn, but no arrow was released. "Not yet." The scarred officer rode slowly through the burning camp beside Ethan Caldwell. He wore a satisfied smile as he surveyed the flames. "So this is where the great Comanche protector hides," Ethan sneered. "Not very brave, is he?" The officer raised a hand for silence. "No." His sharp eyes scanned the cliffs. "He's here." Koa's jaw tightened. "He remembers me." Clara looked at him. "Who is he?" His voice became quiet. "Colonel Nathan Mercer." The name meant nothing to Clara, but the hatred in Koa's eyes spoke volumes. "When I was 16, Koa said, never looking away from the enemy below, Mercer led an attack on our winter camp. There were no warriors there. Only women, children, and old people." Clara felt her stomach tighten. "My father, my mother, my little brother." He paused. "I buried them myself." For the first time since she had met him, Clara heard grief in his voice. Not loud. Not angry. Just deep enough to reveal a wound that had never healed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Koa slowly nodded but said nothing more. Below them, Mercer dismounted and knelt beside the ashes of a fire. He picked up a small carved wooden toy left behind by one of the village children. Instead of tossing it aside, he smiled. "They're close." Ethan frowned. "How can you tell?" "They fled too quickly." Mercer held up the toy. "No frightened child leaves this behind unless someone tells them they'll return." He stood and looked toward the surrounding cliffs. "They're watching us." A nervous silence spread through the soldiers. Several glanced uneasily at the towering rocks above them. Mercer laughed. "Come now, Koa." His voice echoed through the canyon. "I know you're here." Nothing answered except the crackling of flames. "You always did protect people who couldn't protect themselves." Still, Koa remained silent. Mercer's smile widened. "I also know something you don't." He reached into his saddlebag and removed a small silver necklace. The moment Clara saw it, her heart stopped. No. It was her mother's necklace. The one she had worn every day since Clara was a child. "What have you done?" Clara cried before she could stop herself. Every soldier immediately looked toward the sound of her voice. Koa cursed under his breath. Mercer's eyes lifted to the ridge. "There you are." Dozens of rifles swung upward. "Down!" Koa shouted. He tackled Clara behind a large boulder just as a volley of gunfire exploded through the canyon. Bullets shattered rocks around them. Dust filled the air. At the same instant, Koa let out a piercing whistle. The cliffs came alive. Hundreds of arrows rained down from hidden positions. The first wave struck with deadly precision. Several soldiers dropped their rifles as arrows buried themselves in the ground at their feet or pierced wagon wheels and saddles. Comanche warriors aimed to scatter the attackers before taking lives. Chaos erupted. Horses reared in panic. Men shouted conflicting orders. Smoke and dust made it impossible to see clearly. "Fall back," one soldier yelled. "No!" Mercer roared. "Hold the line." Koa seized Clara's hand. "We move." They sprinted along a narrow ledge known only to the Comanche. Below them, the battle spread through the burning village. Warriors appeared and disappeared among the rocks like shadows. Every time soldiers thought they had a target, it vanished. Mercer watched with growing frustration. "They're leading us exactly where they want us." Ethan gripped his rifle nervously. Then we leave. Mercer grabbed his arm. Not until I kill Koa. Clara and Koa reached a hidden overlook high above the canyon. From there they could see the entire battlefield. The Comanche were holding their own, but more soldiers were arriving. Wagons loaded with ammunition rolled toward the canyon entrance. They brought reinforcements, Clara whispered. Koa's expression darkened. This battle is changing. Before she could ask what he meant, another rider galloped into the enemy camp carrying a folded document. He handed it directly to Mercer. The colonel read it quickly. Then he smiled. A cold, victorious smile. What is it? Ethan asked. Mercer laughed. The governor has signed the order. What order? By sunrise tomorrow, every Comanche in this valley is to be declared an outlaw. Even the women. Even the children. No arrests. No negotiations. Only extermination. Clara's blood ran cold. This was never about finding me, she whispered. Koa looked at her grimly. No. It was about erasing my people forever. As night began to fall over the burning valley, Clara realized the truth. She was no longer just a runaway bride. She had become the only living witness who could expose the conspiracy between Ethan Caldwell, Colonel Mercer, and the powerful men behind the Blackhawk brand. And that made her the most hunted person on the frontier. Night swallowed the valley. The burning lodges cast an eerie orange glow across the cliffs, turning the smoke into a dark blanket that drifted beneath the stars. The sounds of battle had faded into scattered gunshots and distant cries, but everyone knew it was only the beginning. By sunrise, Colonel Nathan Mercer would return with enough soldiers to destroy every Comanche family hiding in the mountains. Inside a narrow cave overlooking the valley, the tribal council gathered around a small fire. Faces that had once shown confidence were now heavy with worry. The children cannot outrun an army, one elder said. And we cannot defeat so many rifles, another added. Silence followed. Finally, all eyes turned toward Koa. He stared into the flames. If we stay, he said quietly, they will surround us. The elder nodded. If we leave? They will hunt us. It seemed there was no escape. Clara stood near the entrance of the cave, listening. Her heart ached as she watched mothers comforting frightened children. Some of the little ones were already asleep, unaware that soldiers waited below to wipe out everything they had ever known. This wasn't her war. Yet somehow, it had become her responsibility. She reached into the pocket of the borrowed buckskin dress Ayanna had given her. Inside was the folded paper Mercer had dropped during the fighting. She had picked it up unnoticed while helping an injured warrior. I found something, she said. Koa looked up. She handed him the document. He unfolded it carefully. His eyes widened. The paper wasn't simply an order from the governor. Attached to it was a map. Red circles marked every known Comanche camp in the territory. Each location had a date written beside it. Mercer wasn't planning one attack. He was planning many. The council fell silent. This is genocide, one elder whispered. Koa folded the map. If this reaches the governor. Clara interrupted. I don't think the governor has seen it. Everyone looked at her. My father used to repair legal documents for the county clerk. I know official seals. She pointed to the signature. This seal has been copied. You mean? It's a forgery. The cave erupted in murmurs. Mercer had forged government orders to convince soldiers they were acting legally. If the truth reached the authorities, his entire plan could collapse. Koa looked at Clara with new admiration. This changes everything. Before anyone could celebrate, a scout rushed into the cave. They found the eastern passage. The word struck like lightning. Mercer's soldiers had discovered the hidden route leading directly toward the families. The cave exploded into action. Warriors grabbed weapons. Women hurried children deeper into the mountain. Koa slung his rifle over his shoulder. "We stop them here." "I'm coming with you," Clara said. "No. They'll listen to me. They'll shoot you." "They're already trying." Their eyes met. For a moment neither spoke. Then Koa stepped closer. "If anything happens to you." His voice faded. Clara gently touched his hand. "You saved my life. More than once. Now let me help save yours." For the first time, Koa couldn't find the words to argue. He simply nodded. Together they raced toward the eastern passage. The narrow canyon allowed only a few men to pass at once. Mercer's soldiers were already climbing. Gunfire echoed through the rocks. A young Comanche warrior fell beside Clara, wounded in the shoulder. Without hesitation she dragged him behind a boulder and tore a strip from her sleeve to stop the bleeding. "Stay with me," she whispered. Above them, Mercer shouted orders. "Push forward. We're almost through." Koa fired from behind a rock, forcing several soldiers to retreat. But more kept coming. There were too many. Then Ethan Caldwell stepped into the narrow pass. His eyes locked onto Clara. "There you are." He smiled as though nothing had happened. "Come home, Clara." She stood slowly. "There is no home with you. You belong to me." "I never did." His smile disappeared. "You'll hang for helping these savages." "They're not savages." Her voice rang through the canyon. "They're protecting innocent families while you're murdering them." Some of the younger soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. Ethan noticed. "Don't listen to her." Clara pointed directly at Mercer. "He forged the governor's orders." Mercer instantly raised his pistol. "Liar." Clara held up the stolen map. "If I'm lying, why are all the villages marked for destruction?" Several soldiers looked toward Mercer. One captain stepped forward. "Colonel, is that true?" Mercer's calm expression cracked for the first time. "Arrest her." The captain didn't move. Instead, he stared at the map. Then at the forged seal. Realization slowly spread across his face. "You used us." Mercer fired without warning. The bullet struck the captain in the chest. Everything stopped. For one horrifying second, even the battle fell silent. Mercer had just murdered one of his own officers. "There," he shouted wildly. "Now you have no choice. Kill them all." But no one moved. The soldiers stared in shock. They finally understood the truth. Mercer wasn't protecting settlers. He was hiding his crimes. Furious, Mercer grabbed Ethan by the arm and pulled him toward a waiting horse. "We're leaving." Ethan struggled. "What about the girl?" Mercer shoved him aside. "Forget the girl." As they fled through the smoke, Koa raised his rifle. He had a clear shot. One pull of the trigger could end the man who had destroyed his family. His finger tightened on the trigger. Clara looked at him. "Koa." He didn't blink. Years of grief. Years of anger. All rested in that single moment. The valley held its breath, waiting to see whether Koa would choose revenge, or become the man his mother had always hoped he would be. The valley seemed to hold its breath. Koa stood motionless on the rocky ledge, his rifle aimed directly at Colonel Nathan Mercer. The distance was short. The shot was certain. One pull of the trigger would end the man responsible for the massacre of his family. Clara watched him carefully. She could see the pain in his eyes. Years of grief. Years of unanswered questions. Years of carrying a wound that had never healed. "Koa," she whispered. His finger remained on the trigger. Then another voice echoed inside his memory. His mother's voice. Never become like the people who hurt us. Slowly, Koa lowered the rifle. Mercer looked back in disbelief. For a brief second, their eyes met across the battlefield. You've become weak. Mercer shouted as he climbed onto his horse. No, Koa answered calmly. I've become free. Mercer cursed and galloped toward the southern pass with the few loyal men who still followed him. Beside him, Ethan Caldwell scrambled onto another horse. This isn't over. Ethan screamed. You'll regret this. But almost no one listened. The soldiers who had witnessed Mercer shoot his own captain laid down their weapons one by one. Their commanding officer was dead. Their trust had been betrayed. The forged orders, the marked maps, and Clara's testimony had revealed the truth. One lieutenant slowly stepped forward. He removed his hat and faced the Comanche elders. We were deceived. The elder studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Truth is the first step toward peace. No one fired another shot. The battle was over. By sunrise, the smoke had begun to clear. Families slowly emerged from the hidden caves. Children ran into the arms of their parents. Some cried. Some laughed. Some simply looked at the sky, grateful to be alive. Although several warriors had been wounded, the village had survived. The burned lodges could be rebuilt. Lives could not. Clara spent the morning helping Ayanna care for the injured. As she wrapped another bandage around a young warrior's arm, the little girl who had smiled at her on the first day walked over holding a tiny bundle of wildflowers. They're for you, she said shyly. Clara knelt and accepted them. They're beautiful. The little girl hugged her before running back to her family. Clara felt tears fill her eyes. For the first time in many years, she felt she truly belonged somewhere. 3 days later, riders arrived from the nearest territorial court. The surviving lieutenant had delivered the forged documents before Mercer could destroy the evidence. An official investigation began immediately. Witnesses came forward. Settlers admitted they had been paid to spread false stories. Former soldiers confessed that Mercer and the Blackhawk brand had ordered illegal attacks on peaceful villages. The conspiracy that had operated for years finally collapsed. Mercer and Ethan became fugitives. Their names appeared on wanted posters throughout the territory. Many believed they would eventually be captured. Others believed they would spend the rest of their lives running. Either way, their power was gone. Weeks passed. The valley slowly returned to life. New lodges replaced the burned ones. Children's laughter once again echoed through the trees. One evening, Clara stood beside the stream where she and Koa had first rested after escaping. The water flowed peacefully beneath the setting sun. Koa joined her. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Finally, Clara smiled. When we first met, you hardly said 3 words. Koa laughed softly. I remember. I thought you disliked me. I was trying to understand you. And now? He looked into her eyes. Now I know your heart. Clara reached for his hand. I almost married a man who wanted to own me. She squeezed his fingers gently. But you showed me what real love looks like. Koa smiled. Love cannot be taken. It must be given. She leaned her head against his shoulder as the evening breeze moved through the tall grass. Neither of them knew what the future would bring. There would still be hardships. There would still be prejudice. But they would face them together. Not as a runaway bride and a lonely warrior. But as 2 people who had chosen compassion over hatred, courage over fear, and hope over revenge. Years later, Travelers passing through the valley often heard the story of the brave young woman who risked everything to reveal the truth, and of the quiet Comanche warrior who broke the cycle of violence by choosing mercy instead of vengeance. Some called it a legend. Others called it history. The people who had lived it simply called it the day hope won. And every spring, when wildflowers covered the valley, Clara and Koa would return to the same stream where their journey had truly begun. They would sit in silence, grateful that one desperate whisper on a moonlit night had changed both of their lives forever. Because sometimes the greatest love stories are not born from perfect beginnings. They are born from impossible choices, unshakable courage, and the decision to protect another person, even when it costs everything. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more inspiring stories.